puzzled, just in case you wondered.
Yeah, you're live still about it.
Hello, glad to not see you, but to welcome you on YouTube if you've come for this evening's meditation, which Saccacitta will be leading. And we'll be starting in probably another 3 minutes or so, just while waiting for people to arrive on Zoom. So just have a little patience and we'll be with you soon. Saccacitta, have you got a title for your evening?
Well, it's the same as last time.
Which was?
Mental resilience, Brahma Viharas and mental resilience.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Okay? Yeah, can hear you. That's fine. No problem. So tomorrow I'm going to be back in the center for the first time for an actual working day, which is going to be a strange experience. I say that, but I'll still be having 2 or 3 Zoom meetings. It won't be that different. It'll just be on a different computer. But the great thing is people can start to come in. It's the first day we're opening. We're only opening the center to the Sangha, the public, from between 11 and 3. But it means the shop's open, and then really just the shop for this time. And then from next Tuesday, the 8th, we'll start to have the lead meditation at 1 o'clock. Will be also available to people to come and book in and be in the room, which would be lovely to see people. And then we'll try a hybrid then. I'll lead that meditation and we'll try putting it on Zoom and having people in the room at the same time. So this is just the beginning, slowly starting to open up the center. Hi, Shobit. Good to see you.
Hi, Silavodi, Tara. Hello, everyone. Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim. Hi, Sarah. See, that's how you keep the temperature, keep the heating bill down. You have a blanket as thick as that one that Sarah's got. Right, how are we doing for time? Okay, so it's 5 minutes past. I think we should kick off. So this is the second of Saccacitta's sessions on Brahma Viharas and mental resilience. And without further ado, I'll hand over to him.
Okay, hi everybody. Yeah, I was just saying, so I've got 2 things I just want to say up front. My internet doesn't seem to be that good. We've been away for the weekend and we've come back, and I've been used to it being super fast and super good, but if I start breaking up, maybe somebody has to interrupt and tell me. The other thing is I've got slightly bloodshot eyes, not because I've been smoking something strange, but because I've just come back from the beach. In fact, I went to this place that you see in the background, which is Saltburn, which is my current favorite beach for surfing. But I did quite a lot of time in the surf, and I'm very, very relaxed and a little bit achy. But the point is, here I am, and I'm trying to present this, but I'm very, very relaxed, and I'm trying to sort of wind myself up a bit and remember what it was we did last week. So last week I introduced the Brahma Viharas, and let me just change the angle of this a bit. So the Brahma Viharas is a series of 4 meditations, and you can't really do it justice on just these evening courses, but so I just see this as kind of an introduction for us, maybe get some ideas about what you would like to do in future, maybe as a retreat. But of course, doing it yourself is a good thing as well. So even based on what we've got here, maybe doing a bit of research, you can read, you can find some other lead videos, maybe on the Brahma Viharas. But it's really about practice that helps you get into this meditation. So last week, I kind of introduced this idea of the mind as another sense. So that I think, so this is kind of just as we call Buddhist teaching, Buddhist philosophy, the Dharma, as we say. And so if you think about the other senses, so sight and smell and touch and taste, so the mind is another one of these, it's considered. So what I encouraged us to do and what I talked about was how, you know, we've grown to question things like sight. You know, there's so much fake news at the moment. It's so easy to Photoshop things with digital photography. So we've got to sort of think not everything that you see you can believe. And I think that's quite a good kind of metaphor for the mind, really, that that not everything that comes up in the mind, we immediately have to take on kind of very literally. We can start to inquire, we can investigate, we can, yeah, just have a little bit of, take it with a pinch of salt. I think, you know, a lot of this we're used to. I mentioned, for example, if you wake up terrified at night from a dream, you know, you wouldn't immediately think, oh, that happened or that's going to happen. It's more about questioning it. So, so the approach that I took last week in introducing the Brahma Viharas, you could say was more of an insight-based approach. And so because we're talking about investigation of the mind, as opposed to the other kind of major form of meditation practice, which is a sort of a trying to cultivate the mind in a certain direction, you know, which is a direction that the Buddha perhaps would have laid out. So that you could see that as a samatha approach. So when you're not trying to do this cultivation necessarily, but you're just inquiring what's happening in the mind, why is, you know, what am I actually observing, and do I trust that? That's a sort of a vipassana type approach. So what I would like to do tonight is actually go back to a samatha approach. And the reason I want to do that is because the upeksha bhavana, which is the fourth Brahma Vihara, which I'd like to focus on tonight, and is in a way the one that for me was why I came up with this title of mental resilience. That's the one that's very much about cultivating the mind. Now, cultivation of the mind with the metta bhavana, which is one of the Brahma Viharas, is of course not new to you. I mean, usually we start like that. So, for example, when I lead or teach the Brahma Viharas to people, we have these phrases. So, you know, may they be well, may they be happy, may they be free from suffering, may they make progress and succeed in their life, for example. So that's a sort of a cultivation of the mind approach. Yeah. And those particular things are, I would say, it's not particularly Buddhist. I just think, you know, there's a whole way of kind of comes in therapy or just positive psychology, which is about positive affirmations. So I know my wife's used that when she was pregnant and had quite a bit of anxiety. So just before you go to sleep, you could make positive statements like everything's okay, you know, I'm going to be okay. So that it's kind of just like a life skill, really. I mean, but it is very effective. Yeah. So I'm not trying to in any way dismiss it or do that, but it's essentially, I wouldn't say it's particularly Buddhist. I just think it's a life skill, a life hack, maybe like emotional intelligence. Yeah. Not Buddhism per se. Whereas I think the Upeksha Bhavana, which is Upeksha is often translated as equanimity. Although, and as I said yesterday, I wasn't particularly happy with that. But still, I think it's a very Buddhist, particularly Buddhist kind of approach. So let's talk about it a little bit. So how are we doing? I'm just going to switch everybody back on and just see, is everyone a bit glazed over, or are you still with me? You're okay. Okay, right. So where was I? Right, so Upeksha Bhavana. So equanimity or mental resilience, this is supposed to be a trait of the Buddha. He was not easily flustered. You know, he would be in the presence of beggars, murderers, kings, and he always seemed to have the appropriate thing to say. So he was someone I think it sort of exemplifies equanimity or mental resilience. You know, not being flustered, not being easily flustered, not losing mindfulness. Yeah. So this is a good quality. I mean, surely we would all like to be a little bit more like that we don't get flustered so easily, be able to maintain mindfulness. Now, with the form that the Upeksha Bhavana takes is kind of based on the two meditations that I did lead after the YouTube bit. So that was in the second bit. So hopefully, if you have come along to that. So essentially that was so the four meditations that make up the Brahma Viharas. We've got the Metta Bhavana, we've got the Karuna Bhavana. The Karuna is where, so the Metta Bhavana, we're essentially looking at a kindness, a loving kindness towards people. So that's kind of the theme, as it were. And that's why we start with the friend, where it's sort of quite easy, and the friendliness, the kindness just sort of flows a bit naturally. And then you go with other people that are maybe a little bit more tricky. Yeah. So the next meditation, next as in just the order is not a particular order, but the Karuna Bhavana, the person in the second one after yourself is a person who is suffering. And then you go into the neutral person and the difficult person. Then with the Mudita Bhavana, the second person, the one that kind of allows that particular state of mind, say, to flow or to flow easily, is one where we're looking for sympathetic happiness. So we consider somebody else's happiness and we just explore how the mind reacts to that. And of course, sometimes that's quite a humiliating practice, because we might find jealousy or, you know, things that we'd rather not be feeling towards someone else's happiness. Now with the Upeksha Bhavana, we're kind of using the two foregoing meditations, which is the Karuna Bhavana and the Mudita Bhavana, where we take a particular person and we reflect in this meditation that the person will at times experience suffering, and we just sit with that. And remember what I was saying, that I do believe in this approach very much for the Brahma Viharas. We need to then explore how the mind reacts to that. So we just be very accepting and allow that to happen. And then after a minute or two, we then reflect, this person also experiences happiness. Yeah. So we go in this way, and we don't do it very artificially. We just bring in the thought. Okay. So sometimes they suffer and we see how the mind reacts. Sometimes they have happiness and success, see how the mind reacts. And we try to do it in a very unforced way, where we're not directing the mind. We're just sort of giving this as the instruction. And you just sort of allow the mind to sort of respond to that. Almost like the image that comes to mind for me is like seaweed in the ocean, right? Where the current's just taking it one way and then the other. And so, and you just keep dropping in. Sometimes they suffer. You let the mind sit with that. Sometimes they have happiness. And I suppose I don't want to say too much, except for me, that particular practice was totally groundbreaking. Yeah, because I think I had a superficial idea that a positive state of mind was always kind of a happy state of mind, or, you know, always looking for the bright side, something like that, you know. Of course, the song comes to mind, always look at the bright side of life. So the point is, what Buddhism is saying, and that's why I said this is particularly Buddhist, is the reality is, our reality and these other people's reality, is that we move from one to the other, okay? And if you can do this practice enough, you start to get a broader sense of what a positive state of mind is. A positive state of mind can stay open to that, yeah? And so when you develop that, a resilience comes in because you notice what's not within those boundaries, yeah? And what I started to pick up, and this is, I haven't written this down, so I'm just kind of ad-libbing here. I'm afraid, well, like I said, I've just come out a little bit too relaxed out of the ocean, and I'm just sort of rabbiting on here and just telling you really what this meditation means to me, is if you can identify this zone where you're in a positive mental state, and that might mean really being open to suffering. Okay, so in Buddhism, this is a positive mental state, but also being able to accept that somebody's really happy and successful, right? So all of that. But if you drop out of that, you start to if you can put those boundaries in, you start to notice it. And that's really valuable if you are somebody like I was in my late 20s. I used to suffer from despondency, not depression, but still I would go into kind of like moods of being despondent and just thinking I'm useless, or it's all pointless, you know, pointless making effort about this. So, but the point is then you notice you've dropped out of that zone. Okay, I'm now making it a vertical zone, whatever way you want to see it. And on the other hand, there's also kind of, I think, people like myself who have a tendency to be despondent. At other times, you also have a tendency to be a bit too elated, right? And then you've left the zone on the positive end of it. And I think those two are kind of related. So what I feel this meditation really offers us, if we can keep doing it, is to identify that in your own mind, right? So there's no real, I can just tell you how it's been for me, but I can't tell you what that feels like. Yeah, you need to do this as a practice. So when you work with that, work with the fact of life. And if you think about it, it's true, but you kind of have to do it as well. And you need to kind of go through life and notice that this is what happens. Sometimes there's suffering, sometimes there's happiness, right? So as you work with that, you kind of develop something that you realize, okay, this is still positive. I'm still open to the fact that I'm suffering. And at other times, yeah, I'm succeeding now. I'm happy. I can feel all that surge of happiness and all that type of thing. And that's all okay. But then notice when you've overstepped it. Yeah. So maybe I'm just repeating myself, but it is a point, and it has been an extremely important practice to me. In some ways, I think through the first 10 years of my being a Buddhist, this was the most important practice for me, because it totally stabilized that tendency that I had to either be elated and a bit of a space cowboy, or I just get a bit too down and just be a bit of a cynical person. Yeah. So so I do really recommend it, and I also recommend going on retreats if you get the opportunity for it. Okay, I think that's all. I didn't plan it as well, not as well as last week, but maybe because of that, it offers something different and might be useful to you. Okay. So I think as a practice, it's good that we get into a kind of a meditative space of mind. So I think in this first session, for the rest of the session, we just do like we did last time, which is essentially the metta bhavana. And then when we come back, at least for the people on Zoom, and if you're not on Zoom, think of joining joining the Zoom, because like I say, I want to go into the Upeksha Bhavana in the second half, because I think just leaping in now, when we've all come from different points, I don't know what kind of day you've had. Maybe you had a day where you had to face up to a lot of suffering. Maybe you've had a day where, like me, you've just managed to go and just relax. It has been a bank holiday, so hopefully you have had a chance to relax. But at least it was a bank holiday. A bank holiday, for those who are not in the UK, is just a public holiday, basically. And we get one towards the end of summer, which happens to be today. So we've had a holiday. Okay, so if you just get ready to meditate. So in meditation, the relationship between the body and the mind becomes very clear. So it's always a good place to start. It's just to make sure that the mindfulness that we will need through the meditation is also in the body. So the common one, the easy one, is to do the body scan. And I like to start from the bottom up, but you can do it the other way, from the head down. So if you just wriggle your toes, just get a sense of the feet, feeling the contact. If you're sitting in a chair, then the contact's going to be from below. If you're sitting cross-legged, it'll be somewhere else, top of the foot maybe. And then further up to the legs, lower legs, the knee. Maybe just noticing the muscles. You'll need some muscle tension to hold your posture. But just sometimes we're holding more tension in the body than we need. So you can just sort of twitch the muscles a bit, move things, just move the feet and the toes, and just notice where the muscles are and if they can just deepen in relaxation. And up into the thighs, you've got nice big muscles there, your hamstrings. Again, just tensing and relaxing those muscles. And then you feel the connection up into your hips. So just maybe just loosen the hip joints. Getting a sense of the legs, the big leg bones. Nicely connected. Just relax into the hip area. Just feel the support from whatever you're sitting on. So you can also get a sense of this lower part of our body, the legs, the feet, the legs, and your bottom and your hips. It's all nice, stable base, connecting you with the earth. And so from this base that's well attached to the earth, we're looking now for some lift. So maybe just straighten up your back. Maybe almost artificially see how tall you can stretch yourself up. So right up, small of your back, up between your ribs, up between your shoulder blades, up into the neck. So we've covered quite a lot of the body there. So maybe just for now, just think about the breathing. As we've got our now straight back, notice how the breathing is still flowing. And then just taking the awareness a bit up to the shoulders. You can just move the shoulders round. Just releasing any tension that might be there. Allowing that tension to just flow down the arms, past your biceps, past your elbows, down your forearms, down to the fingers. And you can just wave off any tension with the fingers. And then we'll just come back up the arms and up the back of the neck, up into the head. So it's like we're coming around the back, over the top. And we're going to come down the front. So we just relax the face, relax your eyes, relax your tongue, relax your lips. You can take a few deep breaths, just noticing the breath. So we're following now down to the chest, down to the tummy. And then down to the spot. It's about an inch or two below your navel. And we'll just rest there, your awareness down at that point. Okay, so then we'll move into the Metta Bhavana. So again, I'll be leading it in this investigative approach. Remember, Buddhism teaches us that the mind is an organ, sense organ, one of the senses. So we'll just watch the mind and what it's telling us as we go through the practice. We just be accepting what's going to happen, what the mind is going to say and feel. So we start with ourselves. And we can start with those phrases that I mentioned. So may I be well, may I be happy, may I be free from suffering, may I make progress. So we'll just repeat that once or twice and then we'll leave it. And we'll just notice how the mind feels about that. Can it stay with it? Does it drift off? Okay, so we'll do a little bit of input again. So now we can use visual symbol. So you could imagine a flower in your heart. Starts off as a bud, slowly opens. So that's the only effort. We just imagine the flower. And apart from that, we just accept what we feel, what we think. Okay, so that's the end of the first stage. Sorry, just like last time, I don't have a nice tingly bell. You can just imagine that. So just before we move on to the next stage, just check with your posture. Check you're not tensing up. Check you're still upright. So we're going to the second stage, and now you pick a friend someone you get on well with. And the only effort here is to get a vivid sense of them. Maybe you can just picture them in front of you, or in a situation where you often meet, or where the last time you met. And that's all we do. We just bear them in mind. We just accept what comes up. Thoughts may wander. We might remember that despite that they're our friend, maybe the last time we met they said something that annoyed you. That sort of thing. Just let it go, let it happen, accept it. Just keep them in mind. Okay, so as we come to the end of that stage, just allow the person to drift back. Again, just checking you've got a good posture, relaxed. And then we'll move to a neutral person. So I tend to think of someone who, the relationship you could define as kind of maybe professional, or we do jobs for each other. So I think someone at work is quite good with that. It's you keep the relationship quite functional to what you need to achieve. So pick a person in that role for you. Could even be a neighbor. It's quite important to keep up, to get on well with our neighbors. So we usually make an effort to just sort of be on good social standing with them. Polite, I suppose. And again, we just want to get a really good sense of who they are, just a real sense of their presence. The mind is quite deep. We don't know all the things, all the depths that's going on. So all we have to do is bring the person to mind and allow the mind to work it all out. Just bear them in mind. Okay, so let that person drift back. And then we pick someone that we have difficulty with. Sometimes it's good to, in your mind, keep them at a distance to begin with. Just noticing, often there's more physical stuff in ourselves going on here with the difficult person. So just be careful. If you bring them, try and do too much, then things lock up again. So if you just keep them at a safe distance, just notice what's going on for yourself in their presence. Investigate. Deep breath is quite good as well. So if we're still feeling quite relaxed, we can try to be a bit more ambitious, maybe bring them a bit closer. Get a good look at them. Again, watch your breathing. Okay, so let the person move back up again. Make sure we're still sitting comfortably, upright. Then in the final phase, final stage, we try to recall all the people that we meditated with. So our friendly person, our neutral person, and our difficult person. So you could imagine being in the room with all of those. And then the room expands. We just allow more and more people to be in our presence. Just include more people, people in Manchester, people in India, people around the world. All beings, everywhere. And then just for a few minutes, just give up all intention. We just sit. Okay, so as the meditation comes to an end, maybe just reconnect again where you're sitting. Feel your body. Feel the chair, the cushion. Feel the space you're in. Okay, so that's the end. I think just before 8, I think that's when the YouTube ends, Sila Bodhi? Yeah. So can have a quick break. How long do we usually take for a break, Sila Bodhi?
Usually.
Sorry?
10 minutes usually. Shall we come back at about 8 minutes past?